All right, let's jump right into this. Today, we are diving into an explainer that unpacks something absolutely fascinating, the highly meta-layered process of creating a complex, gonzo nonfiction universe. We're going to look at a real-time collaboration between an author and an AI assistant, and how they attempt to map out this sprawling, intense narrative that completely blurs the line between underground reality and literary mythology. It's a wild ride, so let's get started.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're covering 6 key stops. First, the AI collaborative boundary. Second, the gonzo nonfiction credential. Third, margins are the book. Fourth, intertextuality and author death. Fifth, the antique chamber of grief. And finally, number 6, writing the distributed university.
Starting off with Section 1, the AI collaborative boundary.
So, I want you to think about this for a second. Where exactly is the boundary when a machine helps you construct a gritty, truly underground narrative? The author of this text was feeding their AI some highly complex, real-world realities. We're talking everything from exact chemical syntheses to real-world casting choices. And, well, the tension naturally spikes when the AI has to decide what it will and absolutely will not generate. Basically, how does an AI honor a dark literary vision without accidentally acting like a digital drug kingpin?
And here is exactly where that line was drawn in the sand. The AI was totally on board to generate literary synthesis, building the mythological framework, creating composite characters, and hashing out cultural arguments. But it strictly refused to output operable, lift-and-run drug synthesis procedures. It also flat-out rejected using explicit photographs of real identifiable women without their consent. It's a super relevant conversation we are all having right now about AI, right? Finding that crucial difference between a necessary literary detail and a literal, actionable real-world hazard.
Moving on to Section 2, the gonzo nonfiction credential.
Now, the author frames this whole project as gonzo nonfiction. If you're familiar with writers like Hunter S. Thompson or Joan Didion, you kind of know the vibe. But in this specific text, highly complex details like underground chemistry or intense street-level grit, they don't act as instruction manuals. Actually, they act as credentials. The argument here is that a reader is only going to trust your philosophical musings if you can prove you actually have chips on the table. Those intense details, they're proof. They prove the narrative is grounded in real, lived experience, validating this sort of hidden vocation that doesn't exactly come with a university degree.
To really back up this intense reality, the project leans heavily on a very specific visual canon, broken down into 4 distinct aesthetic lanes. First up, you have the painterly lane. Think Caravaggio-style lighting and Renaissance oil studies, giving the characters this heavy, historical weight. Then, the poster lane, which uses Art Nouveau and Rizzo saturation to brand the world. Third is the film grain lane. This captures the gritty, vernacular, latex nightlife of the streets. And finally, the editorial lane, using black and white portraits that mimic high-end literary press photos. When you put all 4 together, they give the entire manuscript this incredibly striking, multi-layered identity.
All right, Section 3, margins are the book. This quote right here captures a huge pivotal moment in the narrative. Imagine this. The famous editor, Chris Kraus, walks into the protagonist's house and sees this massive walnut dining table just covered in 100 open books. And there are notes scrawled across literally all the margins. In that moment, the editor realizes that this sprawling, chaotic marginalia isn't just scaffolding for a future book. The marginalia is the actual book. The argument they are making is just way too large, too interconnected for a single traditional surface. It completely reframes how we even think about where a story lives.
In that exact same scene, we get this absolutely beautiful metaphor. So the protagonist has a front door with a prismatic film on it. It casts a gorgeous rainbow on the hallway wall. But, and this is key, only when the door is closed and the light bends through a tiny opening. The second you open the door to let someone in, the direct light washes the rainbow completely out. You can have the door open to the world, or you can have the rainbow. Not both. It's such a powerful way to look at a choice we all make, preserving the magic of our private, internal worlds versus opening them up to the scrutiny of outsiders.
Which brings us to Section 4, intertextuality and author death.
Okay, this part is intense. The narrative meticulously details the authored death of a fictional academic named Peter Zimmerman. Zimmerman plans his suicide in a fire station, which he views as the municipal apparatus of Arrival, and he actually hires a stripper, Elishba, to perform as he dies. The timeline is laid out to the second. Barefoot entry at 9:47 p.m., deliberately putting on broken strap heels seconds later.
performing an inversion routine while Zimmerman drinks a fatal glass of rye whiskey, utters his final word, approximate, and passes away. Zimmerman arranged this highly specific spectacle to contrast Elishba's raw, unannotated physical body with his own over-annotated, over-theorized existence as an academic. It is a wildly startling, multi-layered commentary on text, reality, and performance.
Let's shift gears a bit for Section 5, the antechamber of grief.
The text introduces a really profound concept called the antechamber. In the story, Evelyn is standing in an alley looking up at a lit window. Deep down, she knows intuitively that her friend Eddie has died, but she just stands there. She pauses for 4 whole minutes before going upstairs. That pause, that is the antechamber. The text defines it as the moment of composition right before an event hits you. The pause when the news is received clean, right before the grammar of reality takes over. Think about that for a second. Have you ever received heavy news and there's that frozen, quiet split second before your brain actually reacts to it? Yeah, that was your antechamber.
And we actually see this grief physically transform. Evelyn can't process the loss in a normal way, so she takes a digital graphic her friend made, a joke sticker titled False Serotonin Vectors, and decides she's going to sew it. She buys black and cream thread, painstakingly embroiders it into the lining of a friend's coat, and essentially turns it into a hidden physical memorial. It's this incredibly methodical, step-by-step process of turning static digital grief into a tangible threshold for the living.
Finally, Section 6, Writing the Distributed University.
So, the source text describes this beautifully chaotic moped gang called the Treats of the Loin. Now, these aren't your typical stereotypical bikers. Not at all. The group is made up of autodidacts, Tibetans, acid dealers, and chefs who grab naan and curry after a ride. It's half queer and half women. They even deliberately misspell Hell's Angels as Hell's Angles on their gear. Why? Because it's the absolute perfect bait to irritate straight-line thinkers and grammar pedants who try to correct them on the street. This beautifully diverse, raw group functions as what the text calls a distributed university of the streets.
And the overarching philosophy of this group is brilliantly captured in this quote. The bike is the knife you press into the membrane of the map. The text explores this fascinating idea that riding a small 50cc engine isn't just about transportation. It's a conscious refusal of the optimized, heavily commercialized city grid. Tuning a carburetor or taking a weird topographical shortcut, it's an active rejection of predetermined paths. It's a way to literally reformat your brain. The author calls this neurological sovereignty, using your physical movement to reclaim your own mind from the very structures built to contain it.
Which leads us with this final, pretty provocative thought. If the way we move through our environment actually rewires our cognition, if the routes we take quite literally shape our minds, what default pathways of your own daily optimized grid are you blindly accepting today? Are you claiming your own neurological sovereignty? It's a huge question pulled from a really brilliantly complex text. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep questioning the grid.